Broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your listening and viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships. Whatever's in your heart, whatever's on your mind, God is concerned about that which concerns you. And that is the reason that we are here with you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction Broadcast, which is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer, where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you will save money at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at New Life Ministries International and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com, and those of you who use the QR code or the link provided on Facebook and YouTube, we thank all of you for your support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction Broadcast. And I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, we are, of course, Facebook Live, we're YouTube Live at Daily Divine Direction. And we want you to stay connected with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year through our internet radio station, WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio, which you can reach us at WKAPfaith.com. And because we're in the middle of our FijiWater.com sponsored promo for the month of April, you tune in at 12 p.m. or at 6 p.m. or both, and the first three songs that you hear, list those songs, text them along with your name and your email address on the T-Mobile caller text line at 267-992-1424. One of our listeners and viewers will be selected to win a case of Fiji Water from FijiWater.com. And I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, so now we're doing that 12 p.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and 6 p.m. on Sundays. So you have plenty of opportunity to send in the three songs listed, the first three songs you hear at 12 noon and 6 p.m. And you text those three songs along with your name and along with your email address on the T-Mobile caller text line at 267-992-1424. I'm going to address a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your daughter only wants, you said your daughter says she will only marry someone who is rich. You said she will not even date anyone who is not making at least $100,000 a year. So you want to know, how is she going to meet someone and get married if that's all she's looking for? So ask her, how's that working for her? You know, I ask that question often of people who have decided that they're going to do things a certain way. First of all, your daughter needs to understand that marrying someone who makes $100,000 a year is not someone who is rich. That's someone who, if they manage it properly, after taxes, they are going to be financially stable if they can maintain that income for a long period of time. They will be financially stable. They're not rich. At $100,000 a year, they're not rich. But even saying that, they're only tapping into between 1% and 5% of the population. So she's eliminated 95 to 91% of the population by saying she's only going to marry someone who's rich, because that means $1 million or more annually, and that means if she's looking for someone who doesn't make less than $100,000 a year, that might put you up to 5% of the population in the world. That's just reality. So she doesn't really understand what being rich really means. So I'm going to take you through what that first of all means. You have people who are financially stable. You have people who are generating a significant income. And you have people who are rich. And then you have people who are wealthy. So, first of all, I'll use an analogy that was used by, well, it's been used more than once, but if you're still getting a check with someone else's signature on it, you're not rich. The person signing your checks, he's either rich or on his way to being rich. Now, there's even a difference between rich and wealthy, because you can have an enriched life and be rich financially and still not be wealthy, because that's a whole different level. Your daughter doesn't understand that. She thinks $100,000 is rich. She's clearly not understanding economics, because $100,000 a year means that your income is still going to be subjected to taxation, which is going to reduce your income. You have to make $100,000 a year over the course of your lifetime in order for you to be financially stable. Because everything else means you are working. You're just working to sustain your life. So she doesn't really understand when she says she wants to marry someone who's rich. Because in order for her to marry someone who's rich, she has to marry someone who's signing checks. That's first and foremost. Because if you are getting a check from someone who's signing a check, you're not rich. You may be financially stable, but you're not rich. But here's the thing. You said she won't date anyone who makes less than $100,000 a year. So now that's a segment of the population that she's eliminated. 95 to 99% of the population's been eliminated. Now the problem becomes, what is going to make them choose your daughter? Out of all the women in the world, what's going to make them choose her? Now, she may be beautiful, and she may be intelligent, but there's a whole lot of beautiful and intelligent women in the world. So not only does she eliminate 95 to 99% of the population, 95 to 99% of the population has been eliminated by her. She's going to be eliminated by that 1 to 5%. And what I mean by that is they have choices. You know, for those of us who are married, we're automatically off the market. Those who are practicing an alternative lifestyle, those are eliminated from the market of wealthy people. But now you've got that segment of the population that you're still eligible, but they're going to look at you and 10 more like you, 11 more like you. They're going to choose from that. So that's one of the reasons she's having problems dating. That's one of the reasons that getting married is going to be off in the distance for her, until she comes to the realization that this isn't even about standards. This is just about economics. Because that's the way you communicated with me, and what I understand from being prayerful about your daughter and being prayerful that God will open her eyes so that she can see that marrying rich may not be what God has purpose for her life. And then what does that really look like? You know, what is it that sets her apart from everyone else who wants to marry rich? Because at the end of the day, everyone doesn't have that privilege. And even if you have that privilege, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to be able to live the lifestyle that she wants to live. Because one of the reasons people remain wealthy is because they're not going to squander their wealth. I've told my children this, and I'll say this to all of our listeners and viewers. With wealth comes responsibility. That responsibility doesn't mean or doesn't imply just having a good time and squandering wealth. It means being strategic and understanding the responsibility of wealth and being intentional about distribution of wealth. That's what it means. So I'm going to pray for your daughter. I want you to pray for your daughter. And we're going to pray that God will open her eyes and open her heart. Because there may be someone making $75,000 a year who's going to be the person God appointed for her life. I'm not suggesting that your daughter needs to get a scrub. I'm not suggesting that your daughter needs to be a savior of someone who isn't doing the right thing. I'm just saying it may be someone that's under the $100,000 threshold that she's missing out on because she refuses to date anyone who's making less than that. And she really wants someone making more than that. You said in your communication, she said she will only marry rich. She's telling you she may not get married because they all have options. Rich and single implies options. And she's got to recognize that. She's got to get her head out of the clouds, because that may not be for her. If that's what God has for her, then to God be the glory. But you can't start out with that state of mind. You got to start out with humility that says, if there's someone doing the right thing now, who's making a good living, who's stable, we can build on that. We can build from that. Because otherwise, she's going to get some disappointment in life. We all get it. We all have some disappointment in life. But she's going to have some real disappointment in life, if that's her consistent state of mind. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers, and this segment of the broadcast is going to be brought to you by PorscheAmerica.com. So if you're in the market for a new high-performance automobile, one of the finest high-performance automobiles ever manufactured, go to PorscheAmerica.com. you will have the opportunity to virtually build out the type of Porsche you desire to own. If you're in our area, you can go to PorscheDelaware.com, ask to speak to Mike Didio, who is the general manager of PorscheDelaware.com. He will have someone help you to select a Porsche you desire to own. And if you currently own a Porsche and are just in need of service, go to PorscheDelaware.com, ask to speak to Mike Adams, who's the service manager at PorscheDelaware.com. He will make certain that someone schedules an appointment for you, that your vehicle is picked up at your home or office and returned to you when your service has been completed. They will provide a loaner vehicle for you during your service and return the vehicle to you when your service has been completed. At PorscheDelaware.com, I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated you are 53 years of age and you want to be married. However, the men in your age category are either set in their ways or they want to marry younger women. Okay, so let's talk about that. At 53, that doesn't imply that you cannot be married. You are correct. Men who are in your age category are very set in our ways. Well, I'm not 53. I'm way past that. But men who are baby boomers, not sure if that still qualifies as a baby boomer actually, but men who are over 50, if a man's over 50, you are absolutely correct. He's going to be set in his ways. No question about it. The question is, what can you two do to coexist in a happy relationship? That's the question. The question isn't, is he going to be set in his ways? The question is, does he want to be married to someone who has similar life experiences, has life experience, and has maybe raised their children and emptied their nest? All of those things may be a factor to him because he's set in his ways. That's true, but that doesn't mean that that's all men. There are exceptions to the rule, but even if they are set in their own ways, all you have to do is find a way to coexist together. Now, the other component, you have nothing that you can say that is going to prevent a man from dating and marrying a younger woman if he is still interested in having children at 50 plus, and if he is interested in dating a younger woman because he still wants to just have a good time. There's nothing you can say that's going to change that. So those are the people that you can eliminate from the potential suitors. But you still have this segment of the population of men over here who are interested in a long-term relationship or getting married, but just like they're set in their ways, at 53 you're set in your ways also. So you both have to decide what you can live with, what you cannot live with, what you can tolerate, what you cannot tolerate, what are deal breakers and what are not deal breakers. You have to be able to sit down and have those conversations and decide, this is what we can do to build a life together, even at your age, because 53 is not old, 53 is mature, and 53 is set in your ways, just like the men are. There's no difference. You're set in your ways also. You like things done a certain way. But if you get into a relationship, they're not always going to be done that way. And that's okay. You just have to be able to live with it. You have to be able to tolerate some things. There's just some things that are not that important, and they're not that critical. There are just some things. So look, I'll use a personal example. And I'm going to use a real simple one. So I didn't have a lot growing up. And one of the things that as an adult I have always done is I like to have things stored, particularly non-perishables, for a couple of reasons. I don't want to look for something or need or want something and not have it. So I like to store things up. In addition to that, I realize that prices are always going to go up. So, it can be the simplest thing. It can be batteries, it can be paper plates, it can be plastic cups, it can be, sealable Ziploc bags. It can be whatever. If they're not going to perish, they don't have an expiration date, I want them stocked up. My wife is a minimalist. She doesn't want anything stocked up. So we had to finally come to a compromise. And what the compromise was, you do you, boo, I'll do me. Which means I'll store up what I'm going to store up. I'll try to keep it out of your way. And whatever you don't want to store up, don't store. But that's not a reason to end our marriage. It's tolerable. My wife is a minimalist. She's looking for keeping things minimally in place and not have a lot stored up. That's her thing. So kind of ebbs and flows. I'll store some things up, and then when the supply starts getting a little low, I'll re-up, or there are moments when I just say, okay, I'm buying that anyway. Please pick that up when you go to the store. That's all. But we've learned to live with that. We've learned, because we're both now set in our ways. But we understand each other. So she knows that's what I do and who I am. I know that's what she does and who she is. You have to decide what can I live with. It's interesting because two people are bringing their life experiences to the table. And they're merging those two things together. So you have to say, what can I tolerate? What will I not tolerate? Now, my wife's never been a drinker. I don't drink anymore. I haven't since 1987. I don't smoke cigars anymore, but once upon a time, I liked a good cigar. My wife doesn't smoke, never has been a smoker or a drinker, and my point to that is, I know that if I were a smoker or a drinker, she would say, please don't smoke in the house. And, that's just the reality. And then I would have to say, can I tolerate going outside to smoke a cigar, or do I quit smoking cigars? I'm using these examples to say, you just have to find what is acceptable to you and what's not acceptable to you. Don't get caught up on what you don't like. Just focus on what you cannot tolerate and now, because I don't smoke cigars or drink, I don't really go around anyone who does. Not my thing. I have friends who, still smoke cigars, and I don't not go around them because they smoke cigars. But I also, when I say friends, people that I know, but I also know most of the time when they're around me, they won't smoke them. Just because, out of courtesy. That's why you gotta know who you're around, who you spend your time with. They just, out of courtesy, won't. I'm saying all of that to say, you just have to decide what you can tolerate, what you cannot tolerate. Everything in the middle isn't that important. Everything in the middle is just not that important. You know. It's funny because we laugh all the time. My wife and I, we both like CNBC, but we don't really like the same, we can't really tolerate the same types of shows. My wife's more interested in just HGTV. I'm interested in the Finance Channel. She will watch them. But we'll watch, if we're going to turn on the television, and I love sports, of course she does too, but if we're going to turn on the television and we're not interested in watching the same thing, we just watch two different televisions. And I'm saying all of that. These are simple examples, but I'm saying all of that to say what you cannot tolerate, what you can tolerate, those are the two things you have to decide. Everything in the middle is not that serious. It's just not. Don't pick a battle over something that's not serious when it's not that important to the quality of your life. We spend a lot of time as people picking battles that we want to fight just because it's based on our emotion, what we don't like, what we want. It's not that serious. That's another expression we have around our household. It's just not that serious. It's not. And we refuse to disrupt the quality of our life over things that are not that serious. You just got to decide what that is. What's tolerable, what's intolerable, and everything in the middle isn't that serious. It just doesn't mean anything to the quality of your life. It doesn't add anything, it doesn't subtract anything. It's just, it is what it is. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need. And if you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. And the White Company, located in London, the UK. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything you could possibly need. Home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. I think I'm going to run out of time, but I want to say this. One of our listeners and viewers sent in a communication that said, you say that you need more work-life balance. You want to know how do you achieve that when it's very difficult for you to accomplish that? Well, let me just say this to you. There's no such unicorn, okay? Business and work is always going to require more of you than your personal life. Business and work is always going to require more of you. Think about it like this. And I've said this to our listeners and viewers many times. There's 5 major segments in business. They are administration, development, management, marketing, and operations. 2-hour allocated lots of time for 5 segments of business means a 10-hour workday minimum. And then if you go to the office, you come home, there's chances that you're going to be doing emails. You may be doing some work at home anyway. But let's just say you spend 10 hours at the office on work assignments, 8 hours of sleep, that's 18 hours. There's 24 hours in a day, that leaves 6 hours. That leaves 6 hours of perhaps commute time, perhaps social time. That's 6 hours versus 8 hours for sleep and 10 hours for work. It's never going to be a perfect balance. All you have to do is pace yourself and just be diligent about the work and the business at hand, and your personal life will take care of itself. Because you're going to put some time into your personal life anyway, because you have to live. But if you're chasing the unicorn, you're never going to catch it. You're never going to catch that work life. That's the biggest fictitious distortion of reality that society has ever created. Oh, find a perfect work-life balance. It's never going to happen. There's no such unicorn. Because you cannot manage work and business to enhance the quality of your life and expect to spend less time doing that than you spend on personal time. Today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast 3D has been brought to you by Fiji Water. The taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you. May God give you peace that surpasses all understanding. I look forward to being in your viewing environment tomorrow. Remember, we want you to stay connected with us 7 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at WKAPfaith.com. Our